Hello? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? A reboot because the audio would not work. Oh boy. Well, maybe I could reboot and send another link out. Let me see if I can access the chat box. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, I didn't mean to yell at you. Yes, awesome. Yay. Okay. I'm so happy. Hello, welcome. This is the Global Community for Adult Survivors of Childhood Trauma, Complex Trauma, CPTSD. Oops, I got this one hair. It's going to drive me crazy. You're in the right place. You're in the right place if you experienced trauma in the form of abuse when you were younger in childhood, and then you're still dealing with some things. You're struggling in your relationships, perhaps you're struggling in finances, perhaps you're feeling very hypervigilant, perhaps you're noticing some PTSD type symptoms, but maybe you've never been to combat. And maybe you're struggling in interpersonal relationships, the relationship with your kids isn't going well, or you're struggling to keep a job, you're struggling to multitask, you can't make decisions in the moment, you can't make up your mind, you have to write things down, but then you never finish your to-do list, and then you find yourself just wondering if this is all even worth it, and maybe you're just wishing that you just could just go to sleep and not wake up. And those are terrible, terrible feelings. And if that's you, and I just described you, you're in the right place. You may be dealing with some symptoms of complex trauma, some after effects of complex trauma, feelings of you just don't know who you are. You look to others for sort of your identity. You just need to be told what to do because you can't be the person that's in charge of everything. You're struggling. You're really struggling. You're feeling hopeless. You're feeling helpless. You're feeling like there just isn't any reason to perhaps be alive, and you're just struggling with everything, and life is just very, 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 very hard, and you're feeling all those things, and you were either abused or neglected in childhood, and perhaps there's just some unresolved childhood trauma that you might be dealing with. If that is you, we've been showing up here for about 4 years now, and we all support one another and we heal together, and you're in the right place. And I'm so happy you're here. So welcome. This is an open discussion. This is a safe place. Tonight, we're going to be discussing specifically why, if we feel like we're stuck in a very small place, like a very young place, or we're experiencing dissociation, which I have tons of videos on dissociation that you can find on this channel. Down in the description section of this video, there are links to a couple of other videos on dissociation, which might be helpful for you. But if you have either been diagnosed or you haven't been diagnosed with some sort of dissociative, maybe dissociative disorder, maybe dissociative identity disorder, maybe DDNOS, dissociative disorder not otherwise specified. Perhaps you have been Googling and looking up on the internet, what is dissociative amnesia? What is dissociative fugue? What are all these things? Why am I missing time? Why am I experiencing sort of this spacey, I'm here, but I'm not really here sort of a situation? And if that is you, and perhaps you've read some things about internal family systems or younger parts or child parts, and that sort of resonates with you, and you're on a hunt to try to figure out how to feel better, then you're in the right place. And I'm so excited you're here. We just all show up here and we support one another, and we're going to answer some of those questions. We're going to talk specifically about boundaries and why it can feel terrifying or anxiety inducing to establish and maintain some healthy boundaries, some pliable, healthy boundaries that are reasonable with people in our family of origin. And in order for us to unpack this, I want to go at it from a different angle tonight. I want to discuss some things in a different way tonight than we normally would. So I've done this 2 or 3 times before, and you guys loved it. And so what I'm doing is I'm going back tonight, and I'm going to go over an article on how parents deal with children who are struggling with anxiety or struggling with some things. I want to talk specifically about how certain age children express fear and the natural human biological response, the natural human emotional response to things that are scary. Very simple, very simple. It's okay to be afraid. I just want to give you all permission, no matter how old you are, that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to struggle. You don't always have to be happy and perfect. I would be concerned if every single time someone said, "How are you?" and you kind of were having a bad day, I would be concerned. But if you're generally, you're a pretty okay person, you're, enjoying your life, you're learning, you're healing, and you're cruising along and you're fine, then that's great. But if you're struggling a lot and you find yourself in a place of hypervigilance or fear or anxiety, or you're really, really, really just wishing that you could just go to sleep and not wake up because it's just too hard to be alive, then I want you to know that there's help available. And this is not necessarily the place where the help is available here on YouTube, but over in the chat box over here or down below in the chat box, just click live chat. There is one of our awesome interns. Her name is Poppy, and she is putting up some information right now on hotline resources for you. If you are living with anxiety or addiction or depression or suicidal thoughts or self-harm, or you're living with an eating disorder, or you're a survivor of rape, abuse, or incest, or if you prefer text messaging, then you can have somebody text you. Reach out to the crisistextline.org. There are tons of hotline resources. If you're stuck in a domestic violence situation and you don't know how to get out, there are tons of hotline information and people that are willing to help you. People are just standing by, waiting to take your call, waiting to get your message. And I don't want you to stay here on YouTube if you happen to be in a crisis situation and you're really feeling hopeless or helpless. But if you're curious and you've just been doing some super sleuthing and some Googling and you're just educating yourself and you're just here to give support and receive support, then fantastic. I'm so glad. But if you are really struggling, I want you to get the help that you deserve, because you deserve it. So I want to talk about age-appropriate fear and how children, at whatever age they might be, express fear, and then the parental response to that fear when you're dealing with someone who happens to be a good enough parent, as per Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. We talk about good enough parents. You're raised in a good enough household, and then you don't end up with complex PTSD symptoms, hopelessness and helplessness and wanting to die and struggle with executive functioning, struggle making choices, struggle with relationships, struggle with finances, struggle with everything. So I'm so excited you're here. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a screen share. But first, I want to thank those of you who already sent in questions. I'm going to be taking your questions for about the next 14 minutes, and I'll do my best to answer every single one of them. But I am going to go over to a screen share, and I'm going to share with you. I'm going to read it all to you, and then I'm going to answer the questions that you all have sent in on tonight's topic. So first, tonight's topic. So good to have you here, Poppy. So happy that you're here. Thank you to Poppy. Thank you so much to Matt, who is moderating. Thank you so much to all of you who show up here every single week. Thank you to I Still Found Hope, who sent in a question. Thanks to Willow. Thank you to Katie Lee. Thank you to Hunter. Thank you to Jennifer. Thank you to Up Yours, Narc. So good to see you, as always. Thank you to John Harvey. So happy. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch over to a screen share. We're going to read through this website, which, by the way, if you all are not familiar with this website, let me give you the website that I'm going to be reading from. It's a blog. It's called Hey Sigmund. And so it's heysigmund.com. And the specific blog post is Age by Age Guide to Fears. And Hey Sigmund is a blog, amazing blog. I've been sort of going to their website quite often. And then today I actually just subscribed to their blog for the first time. I'm so excited that I'll be receiving posts from them now. But it's at the intersection of the science of psychology and our humanness, just what it means to be human. So science, psychology, facts, and what it means to be human and how all of the things that we do show up in our humanness and what science and psychology say about those things. So you all are the experts of you. What may work for those that are in the chat box now, or what may work for me, may not necessarily work for you, and that is okay. But I'm glad you're here. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you're coming back for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 100th time, if you're not already subscribed, it would mean a lot to me. If you hit the subscribe button and then you click the little bell for notifications, because I don't want you to miss anything if I decide to post a video. And then in addition to that, if this particular video ends up being helpful for you, it would mean a lot to me if you would give it a thumbs up. The reason being, you all ask me all the time, what is the best way you can support the work I'm doing? And one of the best ways is by giving the videos a thumbs up and by leaving a comment in the comment section or in the chat box while we're doing live Q&A. Because the more interaction, the more subscriptions, the more little click the bell for the bell notifications to get all the videos, the more thumbs up. Then YouTube sees all that and then they think, oh, well, the work that she's doing on this YouTube channel is good. So then what we'll do here at YouTube is we will recommend this person's videos in other people's recommended video watch feed. So many of you found this channel because we were in your recommended feed. And that is because someone just like you clicked the thumbs up button on the video, or they clicked subscribe, or they clicked the bell notifications. So that would mean a whole lot to me, and I appreciate it so much. And if you want to have discussions like this 365 days a year instead of just on Mondays, then you can always find me at cptsdfoundation.org, and you can click on the little button that says daily calls. And I'm over there every single day with an amazing group of people that are all healing together, and it's just amazing. So that's it for me sort of telling you everything that's going on. I'm going to do a screen share now for the next 10 minutes. And thank you to CV who sent in a question as well. And then after I do the screen share, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer all your guys' questions. Okay. So let me see if I can just get this to work. Remember, go to heysigmund.com, referring, of course, to Sigmund Freud. But I just love the humor and just the levity in which the author of Hey Sigmund writes. And there's also some really great book recommendations on this website as well. So not sponsored. This is just me telling you like what I like to read and look at. So let's see. Hopefully this will work. I can do the screen share for you guys. Hopefully you all can see this. This talks about fear at the different ages of children. Okay. So when you're looking through the list, look around your child's age group as well. Humans are beautifully complicated beings, and human nature doesn't tend to stay inside the lines. The list is a guide to common fears during childhood and the general age at which they might appear. There are no rules, though, and they might appear earlier or later. So just a note to you all that are here on the channel and you're watching this video, I just want you to know that what we're about ready to read is an average, in air quotes, life of a child and the things that come up for the person who is living an average life with perhaps good enough parents, and then the response that they may have to fear. And the purpose of me sharing this with you is not to trigger you, okay? Trigger warning, because this may be triggering, especially for younger parts of you. And the purpose of me sharing this information with you is because it is very important for all of us, regardless of how many areas of our lives, how much unresolved childhood trauma we may be carrying with us. It is very important for each and every one of us to see that it is absolutely natural and common for children to express fear and be afraid. And this is also a great way for us to perhaps peek into and sort of peer down upon and get insights as to how old our parts may be when they show up, depending on how it is that they're acting, which may help us to resolve certain areas of our childhood trauma, depending on how old we were when the trauma occurred. And again, like it was saying here, this list is just a guide, okay? There are no rules, and these fears might appear earlier or later. So at a younger age or a later age. So it's super important for us to realize that. So first, we're going to talk about infants and toddlers ages 0 to 2. Loud noises and anything that might overload the senses, storms, the vacuum cleaner, the blender, hair dryer, balloons bursting, sirens, the bath draining, abrupt movement, being put down too quickly. And here's why. When babies are born, their nervous systems are the baby versions. When there's too much information coming to them through their senses, such as loud noise or being put down too quickly, which might make them feel like they're falling, it's too much for their nervous systems to handle. Secondly, being separated from you. So this is when we were separated from our primary caregivers or our primary objects. And the reason why this might be frightening is around 8 to 10 months, babies become aware that when things disappear, those things still exist. This is called object constancy. Just as a footnote, you guys, object constancy. Before this, it tends to be out of sight, out of mind. So from around 8 months, they will start to realize that when you leave the room, you are somewhere, just not somewhere where they can see you. This may be the start of them being scared of being separated from you as they grapple with where you've gone and when you'll be coming back. During their second year, they begin to understand how much they rely on your love and your protection. For a while, their worlds will start and end with you. Though for you, this is talking to the parent in relation to your little heart stealers, those the children, it will probably always be that way. So again, this article is written from a compassionate point of view about good enough parents, not about abusive parents. Really important for me to mention that. The third area of fear is strangers, and here's why. An awareness of strangers will peak in children around 6 to 8 months old. This is a good thing because it means they are starting to recognize the difference between familiar and unfamiliar faces. By this age, babies will have formed a close connection with the ones who take care of them. They will know the difference between you and the rest of the world, not only because of what you look like or the sound of your voice, but also because of what you mean for them. For many babies, strangers are sort of strangers. Actually, anyone outside of their chosen few will need to move gently. Babies will be sensitive to their personal space and will be easily scared by anyone who quickly and unexpectedly enters that space. At this age, separation anxiety and stranger anxiety can be a tough duo for any parent. Your little person doesn't like being away from you, but they might not be too fond of the person you leave them in the care of. It can be tough, but hang in there. It will end. The fourth thing that babies get scared of are people in costume. And then the writer of Hey Sigmund says, so let me get this right. You're putting me in front of a big man in a red suit with a white beard, the likes I've never seen before, and you want me to sit on his lap? Nope, not today, probably not until I'm like 5 or 72, or when I figure out that he brings stuff. talking about Santa Claus. Then I might get close enough to tell him what I want, or maybe I'll throw him a letter or something. And I don't get to the point of the big people-sized rabbits that and I don't get the point of the big people-sized rabbits that carry baskets of shiny wrapped thin. Actually, wait, no, the rabbit people. Yes, to the shiny wrapped things. Just put them where I can reach them and then leave, okay? So obviously it's okay for babies, and it's okay for anyone to be afraid of Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or anyone in a big, 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 big suit. And that includes Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Some kids do get afraid when they go to Disney and all these, these big characters are in suits. Another thing that babies are scared of before the age of 3 is anything outside of their control. Dogs, flushing toilet, thunder. At around age 1, when your child starts to take little steps, he or she will start to experiment with their independence. This might look like moving small distances away from you, or wanting to play with their food or feed themselves. With this comes an increasing need for them to have a sense of predictability and control over their environment. Anything that feels outside of their control might seem frightening. So then now we're moving on to preschoolers, age 3 to 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the bullet points of the things that might be frightening. And then you can go back to this particular blog post and look at all the areas where it says, here's why. I just wanted to give you a feel of the Hey Sigmund website so that you could go back and hopefully subscribe to their blog. So I'm going to talk now at preschoolers ages 3 to 4. And if you're looking for reference of what article I'm reading, there's a link down in the description section of this video. So preschoolers or children ages 3 to 4 are afraid of lightning, loud noises, the bath draining, thunder, balloons bursting, fireworks, loud barking dogs, trains, and anything else that doesn't make sense. Next, anything that isn't as it usually is, like an uncle who shows up with a new beard, a grandparent with different colored hair. Next is scary noises, Halloween costumes, ghosts, witches, monsters living under the bed, burglars breaking into the house, burglars making friends with the monsters living under the bed and ganging up, and anything else that feeds their hard-working imaginations. Next, the things they see on television or they read in books might fuel their already vivid imaginations and come out as scary dreams. Children start communicating about their dreams between the ages of 3 and 4. This might bring on a fear of the dark or even being alone at night, because dreams can be very scary and they can feel very, 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 very real. And they don't understand that it's just a dream. The next thing that's scary for kids ages 3 to 4 are people in costumes, Santa, the Easter Bunny, story or cartoon characters. Next, being separated from their parents or being away from the people or the pets they love. Next is the dark and being on their own at night, particularly if they hear a strange sound or if they see lights or shadows on the wall, like a weird, creepy tree, or if there are little chipmunks in the weird, creepy tree or anything like that. Just know that it's natural. And so if any of you here are listening and you're like, I'm living with some dissociation and I never really realized I had younger parts. And remember what we talked about last week. Younger parts simply means that we have unresolved childhood trauma, potentially. Doesn't mean for sure. It's just possibly. You might possibly have unresolved childhood trauma if you think you may have some younger parts or parts of you that show up in a young way, depending on the situation. And then these bullet points will help you perhaps hone in on what age they might be at, possibly, but it's definitely not a hard and fast rule. So I'm going to move on to kids ages 5 to 6. Being separated from their parents, ghosts, monsters, and witches, anything else that bumps around in their wonderfully vivid imaginations. And this can also show itself as a fear of the dark, because we all know the spooky things love it there. The dark, the noises, being on their own at night, getting lost, getting sick. Getting sick is scary for kids when they're about 4 or 5 years old because they think they're going to die. So if you are afraid to get sick, or when you do get sick, you automatically think you're going to die, then it is possible that you could look back at maybe a timeline, or if you had some traumatizing things happen to you around the ages of 4 and 5, it's absolutely common for you to think you're going to die when you get sick if you're ages 4 to 5, because that's what it means when you're sick and you're that age. Next is nightmares and bad dreams. Next is fire, wind, thunder, lightning, and anything that seems to come from nowhere, that appears and then just disappears. Next is ages 7 to 11. Monsters, witches, ghosts, shadows on the wall at night. And then it's worth mentioning that though the children's thinking at ages 7 to 11 is more concrete, children at this age will still have very vivid imaginations. And so it doesn't necessarily mean, like, you'll notice there's a connection. Like kids is ages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through to 11 are afraid of monsters, witches, ghosts, and shadows on the wall at night. So you're kind of like, well, I don't really know what age I was when this trauma happened. You know what I mean? So it might take a little bit more digging to know an age-appropriate response to that younger part. But one thing that is always certain, you guys, when we are compassionate and kind and we let them know that we hear them and that we want to hear what they have to say, that's always an appropriate response. So next, for the 7 to 11 years old children, they don't like being home alone. Being home alone is very frightening for them. It feels exciting, but exciting and scary kind of like connect at this point between the ages of 7 and 11. Next is something happening to themselves or the people or the pets they care about. We can catastrophize a lot, and that's ages 7 to 11, thinking that, of course, it's going to mean death and forever. So please be kind to yourself. If you have a fear about something happening to yourself, or if you have any type of hypochondriasis, or if you're really concerned about your pet and it might just be something minor, but you're really not sure, please be kind and patient with yourself if that's the case. Next is being rejected, not liked, or judged badly by our peers. And in parentheses, Hey Sigmund writes, buckle up, this one might stay a while. So while it starts in ages 7 to 11 for us to have a fear of rejection or not being liked or a fear of being judged badly by our peers, that does stick around. Depending on the depth of your childhood trauma, or even if you don't have a trauma history, which if you're on this YouTube channel, you do, this could stick around for, 10, 20, 30 years, depending on if you have some unresolved childhood trauma around being rejected. If you were rejected by your primary object, or if you were judged, or if you were looked at with disdain, or there was a lack of love between you and your primary caregivers, this definitely might stick around a lot longer, especially if it was between the ages of 7 and 11. So we're moving on to adolescence, ages 12 and above. Now, remember, this is ages 12 to 17. And again, we're on the topic of what their peers are thinking of them. And it would be worth you guys definitely looking into the reasons behind this, because there's a lot, even though many of the people on this YouTube channel tend to have childhood trauma between the ages of 0 and 8, it is definitely worth mentioning that some of the things that happened in our adolescent years as well compounded and caused the younger trauma that we experienced, the early childhood or even attachment trauma, to be exacerbated. It could be like re-traumatization. So always keep that in mind as well. So I'm just going to read this one for your benefit, and then please go and check out the blog post whenever you get an opportunity to. One of the primary developmental goals of adolescence is figuring out how they are and where they fit into the world. As they do this, they will start to worry about what other people think. They also have the job of moving toward independence from you, the parent. What their friends think will take on new importance, and they have to start to make the move away from their family tribe and toward their peer tribe. They will always love you, though it might not feel that way if you're weathering one of the storms that comes with adolescence, but their dependency upon you will shift. This is healthy and important, and it's the way that it's meant to be. It's all a part of them growing from small, dependent humans into capable, independent, thriving, bigger humans. And then moving along toward the end of this article, adolescents struggle with fear surrounding themselves or someone they care about getting hurt, being sick or dying, how they're doing at school, their exams, failure, fear of getting into college or university, not being able to make it after school, continuing to be afraid of strangers, getting into their room at night. They start to be afraid of things like war and terrorism and being kidnapped and natural disasters and other frightening things they might hear about on the news or on TV or on social media. And they have a fear of talking to their parents and older people about personal issues. So if you can remember a deep, 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 deep fear of mentioning things or talking to anybody about what you have gone through, and perhaps it was from a younger age, or maybe it was right around 11, 12, 13 years old. And it's the this last one here is the one that sticks around with us the longest, and that's the fear of missing out. That is in everybody at every age. FOMO, fear of missing out. You're always afraid that you're going to miss out on something, and it's been going on since the beginning of time. And you're not alone if that's something that you're feeling. So I hope that was really helpful for you, and maybe can be helpful in the figuring out of how old some of your younger parts might be and the things that they struggle with, on a daily basis, or maybe struggle with at nighttime, or things that come up repeatedly. It would be worth journaling about this. I can already hear the collective sigh. I know that when I talk about journaling, you guys don't want to talk about journaling. You're kind of sick of it. But journaling is something that can really help us in our trauma recovery journey, especially when we're dealing with any type of younger parts or childhood trauma, unresolved childhood trauma. And when things present themselves and they come up, but let's say you're journaling about them and you realize that they only come up when you are on your way to get a cup of coffee on a certain street. And then it would be worth glancing at and wondering why that street brings up these certain fears. And then, like, I have a colleague of mine who, whenever they walk down this particular street, there are these construction workers working on this one particular building. Well, it turns out when they were younger, there was kind of a blue collar type person that was abusive, and it was an abusive situation, and it was neglect on the parents' fault. Like, the parents were neglectful and left them in the care of this person who was like a blue collar type person, like a construction worker type person. And that's unresolved childhood trauma that comes up every single time they walk down this one particular street where there's construction workers. But yet the trauma doesn't come up at other times because that's the trigger. The trigger is seeing the blue collar construction workers that reminds them of the childhood trauma that's unresolved from when they were much younger. So again, really worth journaling about. So I'm excited to answer your guys' questions for the next 20 minutes or so. And special thank you to Matt for posting all the questions. Special thank you to Poppy for posting everything in the chat box, all of the crisis care information, and just for sticking around and being awesome. There is also a question from CV, and a question from Nexus, a question from Jennifer, and a question from Heroes Don't Wear Capes. So I'm going to do my best to answer every single one of these questions. And if for some reason we're not able to answer every single one of the questions, then we'll do a part 2 of this topic next week, because I don't want to rush through and not answer your guys' questions. Yeah. So the first question I'm going to answer is, I still found hope. I'm going to take a drink of water first, though, you guys. So I still found hope says, I have a fear of being gossiped about behind my back, asking my family to not repeat my words to anyone, and fears of not being accepted, as in I got to buy the right gifts and present myself in a helpful, people-pleasing manner so my sisters and family will accept me for once in my life. Any thoughts? I do have some thoughts. I still found hope. I'm wondering, I still found hope. This is my thought. I'm wondering if when I was describing some of the early adolescent, perhaps ages like 7 to 11 or 12 to 17, I'm wondering if any of that rang any bells. And I'm wondering if you can think back to some times when you might have been over the age of 7, maybe closer to the age of 11, 12, anywhere between then and 17, that some significant bullying may have happened in your family, or were you scapegoated at that particular time of your life? And if so, what are some ways that we can show that age of you some compassion? Do you have some school pictures? Do you have a yearbook? Do you have any family photos or anything, any memories, any toys or artwork or anything that would remind you of that particular time of your life so that you could get a felt sense of what it felt like to be that age? And then if you could perhaps sit with and be compassionate toward how you're feeling and just listen to whatever it is that comes up, and don't be afraid to write it down. And speak with your therapist about it for sure. Because when we feel terrified or afraid of being accepted by our family to the point where we need to buy the perfect gift, or we need to show up in a certain way, or we need to be people pleasing, et cetera, to me, that, that's a learned behavior, and it can be learned early on, obviously. But when we talk about buying the perfect gifts, that to me feels like, adolescence. Like you go to the craft fair, the gift or craft fair that they have at the school in the auditorium, where right around the holidays you can bring a certain amount and you can purchase these little gifts that you give your family around the holidays or what have you. And then you're hoping that it's the perfect gift, and then maybe it's not, or you can tell maybe that you didn't get to give the gift, or the gift wasn't the gift that you wanted to give. And so that to me speaks of adolescence, like right around 7 to 11, or maybe even just somewhere in that teenage years. And I would just want to ask you to show yourself compassion as much as possible toward that age of you, or that perhaps shy, introverted, afraid, fearful, awkward, unsure of herself, just desperate to be loved version of yourself. Like, I would just want you to be very kind to her. So, but I would write about it for sure. And I think it's worth mentioning how painful those feelings can be for anyone. There's someone who's going to be listening to this video, and it's a gut-wrenching depth of their soul pain to think about not being liked by their family and not being cared about or accepted, and needing to give the perfect gift, needing to just be loved just once. And that is so devastating. And it can begin a pattern in our lives of somehow finding our way into relationships where we never feel like we're enough. So it's definitely worth writing about and giving an extra measure of compassion, because it can be quite devastating to feel as though you're just never enough and that you're never going to fit in. And when we're young, when we're adolescents, please try to remember that when we were that age, it was always or never, or it's going to be like this forever, or we're BFFs, we're best friends forever. You can't picture there being a time when you're not going to feel the way you're feeling in that moment. Everything feels absolute when you're an adolescent. So particularly for adolescents who are in a traumatizing or abusive situation, they can't see a way out. They think that that's how their entire life is going to be. So please be kind to yourselves. Willow says, if I feel that I am in trouble or that someone is disappointed in me, I am reduced to tears, ugly crying, hyperventilating, tears. Is this relative to family of origin stuff? I mean, I can't be for sure, Willow, but like if I were a betting woman, I would bet 9 times out of 10 that's family of origin stuff. Like, think of all the young versions of whoever is being mentioned in that article on Hey Sigmund that I was just reading, and think about how old that person might have been when they're really afraid of being in trouble or afraid of disappointing someone. You know, that can start really young, like around 5. That can go all the way, through to 7, 11, all the way through, 17 years old. And if when you were younger, if you felt as though nothing you did was good enough and that you were perpetually in trouble, or no matter what you did, you were a disappointment, or perhaps you were told by one of your family of origin that you were a disappointment or that you weren't going to amount to anything, or I'm so disappointed in you. Or even, and this is a big one, Willow, even if those words were never spoken to you, but there was a withholding of love, like a glancing away from you, never to look back if you didn't perform perfectly. And so there was a coldness or a withholding of love, withholding of approval, withholding of acceptance of you because you didn't perform perfectly enough. Or or perhaps you could just tell by the look of disdain or the look of disappointment that you had disappointed that person. That can be absolutely devastating. So it doesn't have to be family of origin stuff, but I would be willing to bet that it's something childhood related. That's my opinion. And I would definitely journal about it. And I would look into the different ages and ways that you could show up and show yourself compassion. Katie Lee says, could falling back into codependence be triggered by the old fears relating to family of origin, like an emotional flashback? Absolutely. I'm so glad that you have mentioned codependency and emotional flashback in the same sentence, Katie Lee. That's hugely intuitive of you, because you guys, when we feel that we are less than, or that we need to be psychic and anticipate the unexpressed wishes and needs of those around us because we need to fix it or make it better or keep it together, or we need to be the glue that holds everybody together, or we were even praised for being those things. It can be very, very, very confusing for us as an adult because we find ourselves in relationships where that's the role we play. And I believe that it definitely can be family of origin related, Katie Lee. I mean, if your role within your codependent family system or your toxic family system or your narcissistic family system was that you were the adult and they were all very immature and you needed to make decisions for everyone, or you needed to walk on eggshells and anticipate the mood and act this way on certain days depending on how someone was acting, or act this way on a different day depending on whoever was going to be around. If any of that's ringing any bells for you, then if you're falling into a codependency, or if you're attracting relationships that feel sort of codependent to you, where you're depending on them for like approval, or you're sort of needing to be psychic and needing to anticipate their needs, and you're walking on eggshells, then I would definitely say it could be family of origin related. And the fact that you mentioned emotional flashback, so anytime we're sitting in a place in the here and now present in 2018, when we're like adults, whatever age we are right now, and we're like, this is familiar. This is like way too familiar. The scenery has changed, but the players are the same. This person represents my father. that person, that coworker represents my mother. I'm me, just like I always was. Or I have an inner critic. And since my one primary caregiver passed away, all of a sudden I have this overactive inner critic that's picked up where that person left off before they died. Like, it's really important for us to be keenly aware, very in tune to what it was that we grew up with and what we desire to be different in our adult lives, and that we are very consistent of moving forward and really involved in our own personal growth and moving away from any codependent tendencies that we recognize in ourselves from when we were younger, and making the necessary changes and taking the necessary steps to cultivate healthier relationships with people who don't represent our father or our mother or our abusive sibling or crazy aunt so and so that always expected me to be perfect, or creepy uncle so and so who always acted this way. You know what I mean? And not that, you know, aunt so and so can't be creepy and uncle so and so can't be the crazy one. Like, it's all interchangeable. But it's super important that we remain consistently committed to our own personal growth and our own trauma recovery, and making healthy choices moving forward, and silencing those inner critics that take on the voice of those people that were in our lives from a long time ago, because we don't deserve to be reliving those situations for the rest of our lives, and we don't have to. So, excellent question. Thank you, Katie Lee. Hunter says, hello, Athena. Hello, Hunter. How are you, recovery buddy? Why do my child parts still insist I lock the door at night when I know none of my family members sexually abused me? I would go to that Hey Sigmund article that I have linked down below, Hunter, and I would click on it and open it up in another browser. And if you're in the YouTube app, then it might shut down the video and send you to a browser on Safari or on some other, you know, whatever it is on the Google Play Store, but maybe Chrome. But if you're able to open up this video in Chrome and then click over to that article in Chrome, or open up this video that you're on in Safari and click over to the link in the description of this video in Safari, and that way you can listen and read at the same time. Or even later, Hunter. 1 second. Let me get a drink of water. It would be worth it, Hunter, for you to look through those ages that the article was discussing, being afraid of the dark, and journal about some things that maybe are ringing some bells for you, or any memories that you might have regarding those particular ages that the article talks about, like being afraid of the dark. One thing I do know for certain, Hunter, is that it's absolutely okay that you're working through this. And I hope you'll be really kind to yourself and give yourself all the time and space and patience and love and compassion that you need to work through what it is that you're working through. Because it's not like you are giving up. On the contrary, you're here almost every week and you're consistently wanting answers, and you want to heal, and you want relationships, and you want to feel better. So I hope maybe you'll journal a little bit, maybe draw a little bit about what you remember about those certain ages. And maybe when you're struggling at nighttime now, present day, at nighttime, maybe if there's anything that you can do as far as like self-soothing goes. And then I also just want to throw this out there, Hunter. And if someone could tag Hunter, I'm not sure if he's still here, but I just want to say this as a blanket statement to everybody. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 20 something, 30 something, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting or needing to lock the door at night, period. And honestly, like when I go to visit certain places, Hunter, and it doesn't matter if I'm staying at my family's house or not, like when I go to sleep at night, I want the door locked. I just do. It's a matter of privacy, just wanting my privacy to be respected. So I just want to encourage every single person watching that there's nothing wrong with wanting to have privacy. There's nothing wrong with locking the door when you go to sleep. It doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with being sexually abused. Um, I lock the door. I live, even when I lived by myself, I locked the door. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I live with my husband, just the two of us live here. And sometimes I lock the door and sometimes I don't, but I've stopped shaming myself when I do lock the door. And I hope that you will too, if you are. I hope that was helpful. Jennifer says, my dad bought a house for me so I could get divorced. He is a narcissist who made me feel a failure. Living in it is a trigger. I feel worthless every time I am home. How to get over this? I cannot afford to move. Ooh. I am not sure. I'm stumped, Jennifer. If you feel triggered when you're in your home, that's a difficult one because our home needs to be our place of refuge. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to heal. It will be very difficult to heal. If you cannot afford to move, perhaps there's a way you can sell the house and buy a smaller house and live in a smaller house. That might require some healthy boundaries between you and your narcissistic father, as you've described him. I'm not describing him as that. You are saying that your father is a narcissist. So you need to do what's best for you. And I don't know a solution other than selling it and moving somewhere smaller if you can't afford to move somewhere that's comparable. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure, Jennifer. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. What I do know for certain is that the place where we live, as many places as we are in on a regular basis, we need to find ways to create safety in our lives. And we need to remind ourselves that we're adults and we have the ability to create safety in our lives. We have the power to create safety in our lives. And if you're unable to move, Jennifer, maybe there's a way to, like, I don't know, take one room in your house or a little corner of one of the rooms in your house and paint it a certain color or decorate it the way you like it. And then have that just be your special little spot that no one goes into. And maybe that could be like a way for you to feel safe, because you're going to need to feel safe if you're ever going to heal. And I want you to feel safe. So maybe there's ways we can find for you to be in the house that you don't necessarily care for and that you feel triggered in, but we can create like a safe corner or a safe area of the home. So that's an idea. Up Yours Narc says, I am living in fear of my mother and my brothers. I can't get out of the fear. I'm at the point of total exhaustion. Is there anything I can do? Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think I would need more details. I'm wondering, Up Yours Narc, are you waiting perhaps to feel like it's okay to establish and maintain a healthy boundary with them? Like, I would deconstruct this and I would be like, what is it that I'm afraid of? And then I would list all the fears. And then I would look for ways that I could create pockets of safety in my life, especially as it pertained to my mother and my brothers. Because you deserve to heal and you deserve to not live in that state of hypervigilance. And that does sound very exhausting. And I'm so, 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 so sorry. You might need to find ways, just like we were talking about with Jennifer, to create pockets of safety so that you can find a way to heal. Because we have to be able to feel safe and we have to be able to feel valuable. And until we can feel safe and valuable, it's going to be hard to heal. But I just want you to know that I believe you, Jennifer, and you, up yours, Narc, you both have the power to create safety in your life. I believe in you. You have the power to create safety. You have the power to create ways in your life in which you feel valuable. I find you very valuable. I'm glad you're both here. And I hope that there's a way for you to receive that and build upon that because you deserve it. John Harvey says, why do we have some issues now and then we didn't as a kid? I need my room and bathroom to have a lock on them, but as a kid, after the abuse, I didn't care. John Harvey, I have a deep, deep, deep love and a deep understanding of where you're coming from. I resonate very deeply with what you're saying. And my best guess, this isn't the truth. This isn't your truth. This is just my best guess. My best guess is when you were younger, you didn't feel as though you had a voice. You didn't feel as though you could have a say. Maybe you were wanting to please them or to just, sometimes when we're younger, we believe as children that if we can find a way to either be invisible or to have no needs whatsoever, we never need food, we never need water, we never need to go to the bathroom, we can be as easygoing and perfect and invisible as possible, non-human, robotic as possible. No food needs, no hydration needs, no clothing needs, no safety needs, no needs for locks on doors, no needs for rest, no need for safety, no need for anything. We have no needs, no needs. We're just, everything's perfect. Yep, whatever you need, it's absolutely, nope, I'm good, I'm fine. We believe that if we do that, that everything will get better and that we won't be abused. And that's rarely the case. But I'm willing to bet, John Harvey, that there was a part of you when you were younger that believed that if you were invisible or you had no needs, that would be preferable, that would be preferred by them, and that you would either get abused less or you would be liked by them more. And so therefore, you didn't care if there was a lock. You were totally fine. Or maybe it wasn't even on the menu. Maybe having a lock wasn't even something that you were even able to want or need. I know for me as a kid, none of the doors had locks, period. The only door that had a lock on it in our entire house growing up, all the houses, I went to 6 different elementary schools. I lived a lot of places. All the doors on all the houses had no locks. Some of them didn't even have doorknobs, maybe because those particular doorknobs had locks and they were removed. The only doors that had locks on any of the houses I lived in were the front door. And that's to keep bad people out. And all the rest of the doors in the house, you had no control over that. There were never any locks. There just wasn't. So I'm assuming that maybe it wasn't on the menu, John Harvey, or you wanted to be as unneedy as possible because that means that they would like you and maybe not abuse you. That's my best guess. CV says, experiencing a lot of fear with family of origin and transferring into therapy. Any ideas of how to deal with child parts and transference and fearing the therapist? Ooh, this is a really, really, really good one, CV. So when we have a lot of fear surrounding our family of origin, it is absolutely possible and common to project that onto our therapist. And the ideas I have just surround time and patience. And I want to say this, CV, it's not your job. It is absolutely not your job to calm yourself down to feel safe with your therapist. You pay your therapist. Your therapist works for you, and it is your therapist's job to build rapport and to create a safe place for you to feel like you can heal. So what is your job is to communicate with your therapist and say, I'm feeling as though I don't feel comfortable with you yet, or maybe I have some parts of me that I'm sort of projecting. I may be projecting some fears that I have of my family of origin onto you. And I know this can be common. in, therapist patient, therapist client relationships. I just want you to know that I can sense that I'm not feeling comfortable. And as long as you're communicating clearly with your therapist, CV, it's your therapist's job to go through their plethora of resources and tap into the knowledge that they have from years and years and years and years and years of being in college to learn how to be an excellent therapist. It's their job to help you feel comfortable and to help you feel safe so that you can process and so you can heal. So, projecting our family of origin onto our therapist happens. And what I would like to do really quickly, I still have Nexus's question and Jennifer's and Heroes Don't Wear Capes and Sharon. But what I want to do for you, CV, is I want to read you something I wrote to my therapist as a template, or I just want to model some healthy communication that I had between my therapist and I to let her know how I was feeling, so that you know that this is absolutely acceptable and it's normal. This just happened like less than a month ago. I'm going to read this to you really quick. One moment. So this is an email. This is an email from me to my therapist. Here we go. I said, I'm sitting with the feelings that I was having when I met with you, and I'm having trouble articulating them. It's as though I feel like I'm simultaneously on the verge of experiencing or accomplishing something both good/great and bad/devastating. This feeling might be business related, maybe, and it might also be my husband's birthday surprise. Regardless, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed with this week ahead, and I know I need to continue to press forward in my own trauma recovery. And I know that I am progressing in my own trauma recovery. However, it's like I have somehow convinced myself that I will fall backwards if I pause or if I skip a week so that I can have my husband's surprise party. Now, this is me communicating with my therapist a few weeks back. I just had my husband's surprise party on Friday. And then I go on to say, I know how I'm feeling is a total lie that my trauma and anxiety is trying to tell me. Wink and a nod to Matt there. And then I also go on to say to my therapist, I also have this fear of losing the progress I have made in my trauma recovery. Another lie. F you, trauma. And then I go on and I begin to communicate my need to my therapist. This is for you, CV. For this coming week, Friday is feeling like a behemoth since I have somehow pulled off keeping this a surprise. I feel it will be better for my own sanity to either reschedule my appointment with you for another possible day at any other possible time, or if you don't have any availability, I can cancel, although I don't want to. And if necessary, you can charge me for my missed session, but I would definitely prefer to schedule an appointment with you for any other day at any other time, which can work for both of us. I definitely don't want to inconvenience you, but if you could please let me know if it's at all possible for me to come anytime between blah, blah, blah date and blah, blah, blah date, then I would be so grateful. And this is what I wanted to share with you, CV. I said, looking back over this email, I can totally see and recognize my fawning behaviors and my fear-based communication. I projected my mother's tyrannical disapproval onto you the moment I started to communicate my needs and preferences. I could delete this email and just text you a few casual words, but I don't want to casually pretend that I'm fine because I'm kind of not fine. I look forward to hearing back from you whenever is convenient. Thank you so much for helping me heal. So I'm sharing that with you, CV, because it is absolutely possible and plausible that you will, I mean, I've been with this particular therapist for over a year, maybe almost, I don't know, almost 2 years, over a year for sure. Almost 2 years. And there I was projecting the moment I started to communicate a need, or I actually had a need, I was projecting my mother onto her. And then I recognized it. And then I almost deleted everything and just sent her a casual text and said, hey, could we meet this day instead of that day? But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be authentic and I wanted her to know that I was really struggling. So I want to give you permission, CV, to, if you are having some family of origin stuff and you're projecting some family of origin stuff onto your therapist, I want you to know that it's common. And if your therapist is trauma informed, which I hope to God she is, he or she is, they will understand and they'll respect the process. And they'll also probably acknowledge how helpful it is that you communicate those needs and that you share with your therapist if and when you happen to be projecting any family of origin stuff into the relationship. It happens all the time. It's expected. And in order to heal interpersonal trauma from childhood, we need to have healthy, safe interpersonal relationships in adulthood to heal that old trauma. Interpersonal trauma from childhood needs to be healed in adulthood with safe interpersonal relationships. It's the only way that you can actually, it's like the yin to the yang. It needs to happen. Like this type of trauma that I just described to you cannot be healed in isolation. I could start the healing process in isolation, but in order for me to feel like I actually solved the puzzle, I need to connect with another human that I can find a safe bond with and not have the negative abusive response that I had, because there's a part of me that needs to know that that's possible. And not just that it's possible and plausible out there in the world for people like my husband that don't have a trauma history, not just for people on TV or Hallmark movies or whatever, but that it's possible for me. It's possible for me because I have the ability to create safety in my life. I have the ability to create healthy relationships in my life. I have the ability to right the wrongs and to solve the puzzle and to heal and to move forward in a healthy way that is not repeating of the past. I'm not repeating history. I'm breaking the cycle of abuse in my life. So I promise it's possible. It just takes some time. And if it's okay with you guys, Nexus, Jennifer, Heroes Don't Wear Capes, and Sharon, I would love to be able to give your questions the attention they deserve by continuing this topic next week. So Nexus's question says, when family talk about how great they are with their current family, I feel hurt and I don't want to know because they never provided that to me. How can I cope with that? How to cope with what is normal? I'll talk about that next week. Jennifer says, I have attachment trauma. I was meditating today and I swear I saw myself in a crib being distraught and not swaddled. Is that something? It's definitely a thing. I mean, I'm not saying that it's possible or not possible, but you're not the first person to tell me that they have memories of being in a crib. I have, in fact, a dear friend of mine who is a colleague. She shared with me probably, I want to say it was like 8, 9, 10 years ago, that she has memories of being in a crib and being abused. She says she has a vivid memory, like she can picture the person and what they were wearing and everything. So I'd say anything's possible. If you're saying it's real, perception is reality. This is your reality. And I just want you to know for sure. I want Nexus to know this, and I want you to know this, Jennifer. You can heal. Like, this doesn't have to be your reality forever. You can heal attachment trauma. It does take healthy humans, and it takes a lot of work on your part and an attitude of resolve and being in healthy, safe community with others. So Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, my mother showed up and I'm feeling trapped and victimized, feeling like I don't have any choices. Is this the fear/child part stuff? Well, if your mother was abusive, Or if she was minimizing and she was an enabler and she allowed you to be abused and traumatized, then absolutely, then that could be fear/child part stuff. Remember, child parts, and when I say child parts, that's simply unresolved childhood trauma that we haven't glanced at, looked at, listened to, and given the attention it deserves. So doesn't make you crazy. It means that you're human and that you experienced some trauma in childhood. And I would absolutely say yes, but I want to go more in depth. I want to be able to answer these questions next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The last question that's going to be answered next week is Sharon. Sharon says, 7 weeks without contact from my sister. My younger parts long for communication. My adult says, fabulous, but my younger parts are scared of losing my sister. Will this get better or easier with time? The short answer is I believe that it will get better and easier with time, but I would love to be able to go into deeper answers for you, Nexus, and Jennifer, and Heroes Don't Wear Capes, and Sharon, because I don't want to just rush through and say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to be able to sit with your question. You deserve to be heard. This is part of the healing process, actually. You know, your younger parts need to know that you, your adult you, is sending in this communication, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm looking and I'm saying, I see you, I hear you, you matter, and I want to give you the time and attention that you deserve, the consideration that you deserve. So I would love for the 4 of you to come back next week, if that's okay. Next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we'll discuss a very similar topic to this. And I will start with your 4 questions, and then we'll move on to everyone else's questions on the topic, on how I present the topic next week. So I hope that's helpful. I always love spending time with you guys. Please always feel free to reach out if you want to have discussions like this. Oh, excuse me. If you want to have discussions like this 365 days a year instead of just every Monday, then go to cptsdfoundation.org and click on daily calls. And I just love being here with you guys, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. If this video was helpful for you at all, thank you for giving it a thumbs up. And if you would like more videos like this, then it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to this channel and click the little bell for notifications. And I appreciate all of you who stuck around to the very end. And there's like almost 40 of you here. So thank you. Thank you for being here. You guys are the most important part of this community. Without you, this community ceases to exist without you. So thank you for everything, and I'll see you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everybody.